2023 ended up being a pretty shit year for me, but a lot of great music ended up coming out this year. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into my list with number 23, and we've got Yozeret Shadum, Sefer Yetzira, the Book of Creation. I probably butchered that, but this death industrial noise power electronic artist. It's one of the first albums I kind of really discovered this year, back in early January, um, and it really just kind of intrigued me. Just the whole premise of like she's looking at like this part of Judaism that's a woman creating demons, and it was just an interesting concept to me. So number 22, I've got Abject Seike, The Evolution of Consciousness. This is a really underground hip hop artist's first full length album that I discovered earlier this year as well, that I haven't heard really anybody else talk about. This album kind of caught my ear because of the beats and stuff on it were really interesting to me, and he had a really interesting vocal style, and some of the sounds on it kind of remind me of the show Legends of the Hidden Temple, that kind of kid game show that used to come on back in the day. But all around a great kind of conscious hip hop album. Number 21, we've got Intrastare Vestiges 3. I think I pronounced that right, probably not, but this is an album that caught me earlier this year as well because of just like the really interesting avant-garde metal sound, and I definitely recommend it to anybody that's into stuff like that, kind of weirder experimental metal music. Number 20, we have Audubon, Ecstasy of Ruin. This is a really interesting album, post-punk album that implements EBM music, electronic body music, into their sound, and it really intrigued me earlier this year, and or like kind of the middle of the year, and I'd recommend anybody that's into post-punk and stuff like that. Number 19, I have Last Tourists with their self-titled. This is another kind of post-punk album, very shoegazy, fun, interesting atmospheric sounds on this album, and I listened to that a lot this year. Number 18, I have Juna, Femina Fuerens. It took me a little bit to get into this album earlier in the year when I first I think this album came out really early in the year, but I kind of got into it in the spring, and ended up seeing them live probably around June or May, something like that. I forgot exactly when they were here, but I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed seeing them live, and I'd recommend this to anybody that's into kind of like noise, post-punk, or just kind of more like punky stuff like that. Really just good alternative rock in general, kind of a good album. So number 17, we have Liturgy, 93696. It's another band I saw live earlier this year and actually really enjoyed their performance. The music just sounded good in the space, and this is really cool, interesting Blackgaze band that implements like classical sounds, and they always have something new that they're experimenting with. So yeah, it's definitely a top contender on this list. Very epic, long album. So it's not for people that don't really like super long, drawn out stuff. So, but check it out if you're into like Blackgaze kind of stuff. Number 16, I have The Blood Pact, Death of the Vampire. This is a great post-punk album, goth, darkwave, whatever you want to call it, kind of minimal synth as well. And it's like exactly the type of stuff, the sound that I like in that genre. So that really intrigued me earlier this year as well. I think they used to be based in Virginia, but now they moved up to New York, it looks like. So sounds cool. If you're goth and like stuff like that, definitely check this one out and won't be disappointed. Number 15, I have Impetuous Ritual with Iniquitous Barbaric Synthesis. This metal band, death metal band, kind of reminiscent of Portal, I'd say. Kind of just like this like crushing, suffocating metal sound. and they did a really good job with it and pulled me in. Just like their older stuff, really. So if you're a fan of them, definitely worth listening to this one. Number 14, I have Wormhole, Almost Human. I think they consider themselves like a technical slam metal band, but it's really kind of a cool death metal, technical death metal, brutal death metal kind of sounds mixed in on this album. It's a pretty short album, like 26 minutes long, but it's actually really fun, and I've enjoyed listening to that this year. Number 13, I have Jane Remover with Census Designated. Um, I was a big fan of her last album, Frailty, um, and this is definitely kind of doing more experimentation and pushing different sounds, and I've really been enjoying this album this year as well. So anybody that's into just like she mixes so many different sounds. There's some like shoegaze, like emo, um, other like electronic implements, like kind of like I consider like digital hardcore kind of elements and stuff in there. It's really a cool album, so definitely check it out if you're interested in stuff like that. Number 12 with Vivi Vilvallo, with his solo debut album, Neon Noir. Um, I like the sounds in this is just so comforting to me. Has like that early or that kind of softer hymn sound, and mixed in with just like other kind of like post-punk synthy bands, and just I don't know, it's just comforting and kind of like nostalgic sounding to me. So it's definitely been going back to that a lot this year. Number 11, I have Arm& Hammer, We Buy Diabetic Test Strips. It's a great abstract hip hop album. They always just kill it with their stuff. They have such a cool, unique sound. Great lyrical content, and just the vocal style in general is always so great, and the beats are just so interesting and out there and different. And so yeah, if you're into abstract hip hop, underground hip hop, definitely check these people out. Right, to the top 10. Number 10, we've got Nithing, Agonal Hymns. I talked about this album before on because I think I have the CD of it. And this is just like a straight up crazy, brutal death metal album, just really in your face, intense, like another like only like 20 something minutes long. This is an album I've been putting on at the gym, like most of the time when I actually do go to the gym and lift weights. It's just like just it's great to accompany that, to just really get you going, and just wild and brutal stuff. Um, yeah, it's kind of can get like funny at points. It's just so intense. But yeah, it's really cool if you're looking for something like insanely heavy and brutal. Definitely check that out. Number 9, I have Plain Chant, Frontier. I've talked about this album before on this channel too, more than once I think. So I have a cassette of this, and I burned a CD of it before the cassettes were released. It's really interesting, kind of like the first song really reminds me of like the sound, like the guitar sounds kind of sound like something you hear in like a lo-fi indie rock album. But it's just like really just lo-fi black metal. The whole album's kind of just has that lo-fi black metal, but it implements kind of that sound, that other like kind of like indie sound at parts. But it's still to say it's like a mostly like a lo-fi atmospheric black metal album, and I just really like the sound of it. It's really a cool sound, and if you like that stuff, definitely check that out. Number 8, I have Coil Cloud, Towers of the Empty Orbits. Um, this is a really interesting album. It's I guess it considered experimental black metal, kind of Blackgaze in a way, but it's really different from other like Blackgaze bands, because it doesn't have guitars or bass in it. It's mostly just kind of like a like like electronic style with some like black metal percussion. There's even like some like kind of post-punk feels to it as well. It's really an interesting album, but just like straight up like screeching like black metal, kind of like screamo esque vocals. So it's really interesting and intriguing, and I like to hear more sounds like this. Number 7, I have Agriculture. They're self-titled. Um, I was listening to this album a lot earlier this year. It accompanied me a lot, very well, sunbathing during the summer months, and it's such a great Blackgaze album. It's really, they consider themselves ecstatic black metal, um, but there's just like some of like the vocals on this album are so good, and just the band just works so well together. They just make such a great sound, and yeah, I really recommend this, very much so, for people who like stuff like that. Number six, got Caroline Polachek, Desire, I Want to Turn Into You. This is such a great pop album, art pop. Really got into her this past year. Um, and I saw her live. I actually have some footage of two of her songs if you want to go back and see that. I saw her back in May, I believe. Um, Definitely recommend this album if you're into kind of like avant-garde, different kind of pop music. Now, top five, got number five, is Narrowhead, um, Moments of Clarity. This is just, they're not really like doing anything like different here, not like pushing the boundaries or anything, but it's just like, it sounds just like an album straight out of the 90s, like alternative scene, and they have like elements of shoegaze and just that whole like great sound and like new metal sound from the 90s, and it's so infectious and just really, it pulled me in, and I was really listening to that a lot this year as well. They were here recently in Richmond, but I didn't end up catching them, unfortunately, but I hope to catch them in the future. So it would just be kind of a fun kind of like comforting sound to me, I guess. Number four, I've got MS Paint, Post American. I've talked about this album a bit this year too. I've got a cool cassette that I got recently, and very happy to have that in my collection. Um, this is such a cool like cyberpunk album, and I saw them live earlier this year too, and really loved it. And this album's just so fun. It's like it's only like 30 minutes long, but it's just so great. I just love the other. It's like no, not really guitars or stuff, and with it either. It's just kind of just like this electronic sound with the drums, and just great vocals and lyrics and everything. Just really all around just great. So if you're into punk music, definitely give that one a listen. Number three is got Reverenced Paroxysm, Lux Mort. This is my top metal album of the year for sure. Been really into this. They're super underground. People are just not talking about them, which is really interesting because it's a really incredible like death doom album. I'm not usually not too big on like doom metal, but when it's mixed in with like the more like with death metal and stuff, I really can get behind it. But reminds me of kind of the artist Decomposed from the 90s. I kind of got into their one album they released back in those days. But this album's just like, it's so dark and heavy, and the voice samples that they have on here are just like so unsettling, especially the one that's leading into the last song. It's just like so heavy and just disturbing in ways, and that's kind of what I look for in metal music. So definitely check that out if you haven't heard this album, if you're into brutal death metal and stuff like that. Number two, we've got JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown with Scaring the Hose. I think people would probably, that watch my channel, would know that was probably going to rank high, because JPEG Mafia is probably my favorite artist in the world right now. I just absolutely love everything he's done, and I cannot wait to see what he does more in the future. And this album, I was never too big into Danny Brown, surprisingly, but this album definitely got me more interested in him, and I've dug in more of his back catalog, and I like his stuff a lot more, like his vocal style and his kind of goofiness, and they just came together and did so well, and JPEG Mafia just really pushes the boundaries, and I'm sure he's gonna continue to. He's such a unique sound and is really just changing the game within hip-hop. Alright, number one in my album of the year is Yule Soft Scars. I was talking about this artist in my past, one of my past videos, in my music updates. I have been pretty obsessed with this artist. Really, just been digging into their backlog, um, with their electronic music, and it just really pulls me in. I just love the sounds that they create, and this album is just so fun. It's different, a lot different than some of their other ones. Um, it has like this. I consider this album, what I've been considering it to people. I like to say um, it's emo space robots got together and made and like an indie pop rock album, and it's just like it's so good. Like I f- it feels like there's like a whole like kind of concept behind it, and I feel like that's what the concept is, but I have no idea. It's just what it sounds like to me, and yeah, it's just like it's like these emo space robots like have like been getting like interceptions of like radio stations from down on Earth, like alternative stations, and just and have like started like trying to replicate these sounds themselves, and it's just it's just so good. I really have just been loving it, and um yeah, I would just definitely recommend this to anybody that's like kind of into that like kind of like indie tronica, just indie like just indie rock and stuff like that in general. I would highly recommend this album. It's so fun, and yeah, I will be listening to it for probably years and years. So I hope to see them live someday as well. But yeah, that's my end year list. That's my top 23 albums of the year. Let me know some of your favorite albums down in the comments. I'm always like to know more things. I'm sure there's stuff that I didn't find this year, but these were just the ones that really stuck out to me the most, and I was going back to the most, and just kind of wrap up my year in general with music. So yeah. Ooh. So thank you guys for watching. And I will see you guys next time. Shout out to Steve Wallace.